Retro Hangover, supported via Patreon by listeners like you. We would especially like to thank patrons Lyle McCarnes, Ashton Ruby, Randall Quiggle, Tony G, Studstill Smash Milkman, Katie Quigg, Raging Demon, JC, Megan Caruso, Mast Keaton, Andrew LaGuarri, Ozzy Garcia, The Retro Vixen, Adam from The Good, the Bad, and the Backlog, Lunchbox, aka The Disgruntled Gamer, Disky Jenny E, Rick Firestone, Parallax Puddles, Soha, Dave Jackson, Matt, aka Stormageddon, Retro Overdrive, Van Fernal, Keith Gasper, Eric Guest, Nomad from the Retro Wildlands podcast, Ash Event, Alan Bingham, Storm Beagle, Ryan, Player One, Mike the Ref from Backbreaker Gaming, B. Ross from Super Garbage Day, and Darth Emick. Your continued engagement and generous donations are deeply appreciated. Welcome to The Flight, a consumable curation of champions and catastrophes that is considerate of your chronometer. Welcome to another edition of The Flight, everybody. It is me, Chris Gopleen, from the Retro Hangover podcast, but you already knew that because I'm also joined by who is joining me? I think we advertised Shane, but we might need to retcon that and say it's actually Ozzy or Ashton. No, I'm just fucking with you. It's Shane. Shane, how's it going today?
Oh, I mean, almost being written out of existence is a jarring experience. Let me tell you what. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you could really just kind of palette swap me with any other mid to late 30s dude who just likes video games. And, I'm not sure anybody would notice.
I don't tend to agree, but maybe in a later episode I will, and say I always have. Because
there you go.
Some people are all about that shit. I don't know. I don't pay attention enough to plots to really know retcons well enough. I actually had to do research for this.
I was just about to say that's a great setup for the rest of this episode. You just I knew nothing. I don't know.
I had to be reminded is some of the things, like, I don't know, like I just, that's weird. And I move on. Like, it doesn't sit with me. So I had to look up things and be reminded of stuff. So I hope you're happy, patrons. This is the future you wanted, and you will receive it.
There is no fate but what we make until somebody retcons that shit too.
Yeah. And just to know who recommended this topic, it was Tony G, who both suggested the top 5 best and worst retcons. I don't think there's such thing as a best retcon personally, so I don't know which angle you took on this, Shane. I just went for 5 retcons that I give a shit about. So I don't know if they're good or bad, or if they're the best, but they are 5 retcons, and
I 100% went with worst. All of mine are the worst.
I think that's actually the correct answer, because I can't think of a good retcon. Period. Like, there are none. But I think we should get the show on the road. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, let's do it. And you know what? Who better to start off this list than the man who had no idea how to tackle this thing? So Chris, why don't you give the people your number 5?
Number 5.
All right, so my number 5, actually, when I started thinking about it, it started coming up, and I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen. Mass Effect 3 ending, which, if anyone remembers Mass Effect 3's ending, it was, choose your flavor. You got like red, yellow, and green, or something like that, and it just determined what you were going to do. And I don't know, it kind of sucked. Like, one was, oh, you're going to be a robot, and then one is you're going to be a half robot, and one you kill all the robots. And something similar to that, with not getting too into the specifics of it. But then, like, fans got really mad because they're like, we thought our choices mattered, man. And then people who were defending it were like, it's about the journey, not the destination, man. And BioWare was like, what do we do? what do we do? So they kind of retconned it and added a bunch of other stuff in a patch and said, "Hey, here's the ending. We added things and look at these pictures about the decisions you made and they really did matter and here's all the people that are like Rex and they're doing okay maybe if you chose that path, we hope. Or they're not here." And I kind of don't like that because in many ways it shows some people will like this, but it shows a precedent like, oh, our vision for the way the game should have ended in our story and our plot line, the way we wanted to write this, wasn't accepted by the fans. Okay, we'll just change it so they like it. And I don't think they still liked it. They said it was better and it calmed people down, but I thought that was hella lame. They should have stuck with the original ending, which I guess technically isn't a retcon because all it did was just add extra stuff to flesh the story out. But I don't think it needed it. So that's my number 5 is the change to Mass Effect 3's ending.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, that's actually that whole debacle is the reason that I have yet to actually play Mass Effect 3. I've played the
Yeah.
first 2 and I've put off playing the third one because of all of that. I mean, I should. At some point I'll get around to it. I just hope that I still have my save file so it'll continue over. But anyway, so my number 5. So I'm starting out like it's pretty minimal. This isn't a big deal. It's not really stuck in my craw so much. That comes a little bit later here, but it is still one that I don't particularly agree with. And that is power armor in the Fallout series. So specifically, we're talking Fallout 4 / Fallout 76 and kind of what they did with power armor. And so in like all of the previous Fallout games, the power armor was always described as to have been powered by like this miniature nuclear reactor that allows power armor to essentially perpetually operate for like 200 years, right? And so in Fallout 4, all of the power armor that you come across are powered by miniature fusion cells that only last like 30 minutes. And there's an in-universe reason for that, and that is because the events of Fallout 4 take place about 210 years after the Great War. So that makes sense, fine. So the original resources, the mini nuclear reactors and stuff, that stuff is scarce or gone at this point. And so people are just scavenging whatever they can find to continue using this like OP ass power armor. Okay, fine. That I'll allow it. That's cool. The real offender here, honestly, and as much as I grew to like playing the game from a lore perspective, Fallout 76 kind of goes and totally fucks with this because the events of 76 canonically take place about 25 years after the bombs dropped. So, but it keeps the power armor system from Fallout 4. So you're constantly having to replace the cells in your power armor to keep it going, which according to established lore, makes no sense whatsoever. Because if it's only 25 years after the war, then feasibly there should be plenty of those mini reactors around, along with the power armor suits. And so it just made zero sense. And honestly, the thing that irks me the most about it, aside from the inconsistency, really is just that it's very blatant as to why this choice was made. Obviously, it's so that it could be, a resource that runs out quickly that you would then have to either find or probably pay extra money to get some microtransaction to give you more shit to be able to obtain more reactors. And that's kind of gross. So that's why it's starting my list. It's nothing huge, but it is a plot inconsistency with like a little dash of BS capitalism. So there you go.
Hooray.
Number 4.
The next one on my list, number 4, is really too many damn things to list in Lunar Silver Star Story Complete. I don't know where to get started with this. I don't know. I didn't like a lot of the things, like what they did with the Vile Tribe. there's three of them, and all of a sudden they're trying to they try to make them sympathetic, but in doing so, they make your heroes and what your heroes are doing look like complete assholes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, like they banished them to the frontier, and then Althena didn't shed any love on them, and that's why they're it's all desolate, and they've been trying to make up for it after all these years, but it's just like a I don't know, like a hate punishment that forever they will be banished to this horrible place, and only when they find Althena's love do they get better, but they don't. The frontier stays the frontier, which sounds horrible. So it makes your characters look bad. Plus, there's like little things. So in the Sega CD version of Lunar, by the way, spoilers all the way through here. Like for like the remainder of my picks, I'm not even gonna lie. Like all of them have spoilers for the games I'm gonna be talking about. But in the original Sega CD version, you find Dine's sword being guarded by Althena's guardians, like they're gods or something or angels, and then when you go to pick it up they get killed by Galleon. But in the remake you find it inside of Dine's tombstone, and like the reason Dine doesn't join you when you go raid Galleon's stupid tower is because he gets turned to stone by I forgot her name, but she's one of the Vile Tribe people, and he can't follow you. But in the other one, he just kind of stays behind and just doesn't follow you, even though he's like a level 99 badass. And he's just like, nah, you go take it, children. I'm gonna fuck around over here. So there's a lot of things that like I don't like, and it didn't need to change. It just felt like they added shit for the sake of adding shit. I did like the fact that they had Luna stay with you a little bit longer in terms of that retcon, and instead of just staying behind on the island and saying go on your adventure. But that could be argued either way. There's just too much shit that bothers me as a Lunar fan in Silver Star Story Complete that I know a lot of Lunar fans do love, but I think it ruins a lot of the flavor. I think it ruins a lot of other things. Oh yeah, I think fucking they didn't kill the dragons. They like imprisoned them.
Oh yeah, that was weird too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like in the original they killed them, which makes a lot more sense. So yeah, all of that retcon, it's dumb. The original Lunar is better on the Sega CD. And there's that.
All right. Well, my number 4 is starting to get into stuff that actually does bother me quite a bit, actually. And so here's the thing. I probably could have made this entire list out of just Blizzard games, for the record. They are fucking notorious for retconning the shit out of their own plot lines. And this is one of them, and that is Kerrigan from StarCraft 2 specifically. So if you're familiar with the StarCraft lore / plot line, then you know that Kerrigan becomes infested by the Zerg, and she becomes the Queen of Blades. And originally, that was it. Like she done got bad, and she's bad. She turned bad, and that's it. She is Queen Bitch of the Universe. End of story. And then StarCraft 2 is just like, oh, but like we totally want to try to like shoehorn in this like continued romance thing between Kerrigan, and Raynor. So like let's try to make that happen, but do it in the laziest fucking way possible. And so you'd think if they really wanted to go that route, which again, I've said this before on other episodes, that Blizzard loves their, bad guy turns good, then there's redemption arc story. They've done it to death, and this is another one of those. But if they were gonna do that, they could have at least had her do some major, huge redeeming act to like bring her back to the quote unquote good side. But that would require work, so they did not do that. And all they really did was just give her like a split personality bullshit hand wavy thing to explain stuff. So they took what was a pretty cool character with a pretty cool villain and basically turned it into like literally the cringy, shitty like meme of like, I have my dark side, but also my light side. And that's basically what she is. Like the Queen of Blades is one half of her personality, and then the other half of her personality is is OG Kerrigan trying to like fight off the split personality. So it's like this kind of dumb Jekyll and Hyde thing that never existed, and it really only got put in here for the sole reason of giving her, like I said, a super lazy redemption arc, and also trying to like ham fist this romance thing with Raynor into StarCraft 2. So just like bad decisions all around.
Please, because like the Zerg's a hive mind. They're a bunch of like commie little Zerg people. Do they like try to romance Raynor too? Because they all think the same thing, right?
Oh, see,
Like-
now you're thinking too much about this. Don't think too much about it, Chris. They don't
Because
want you
she's
to
the
think
queen.
about it. Yeah.
It sounds bad.
It's
It sounds
different.
like
It's
a bad idea.
Yeah, it's totally different. Don't forget about the overmind. Don't worry about that.
What?
Number 3.
All right, here's my number 3, and it's about, I think it's Metal Gear Solid 4. I think that's where this gets revealed, and this requires a little bit of backstory. So in Metal Gear Solid 1, Liquid Snake dies. Liquid Snake is Solid Snake's brother. You know, Metal Gear Solid. That's your character you control, Solid Snake.
Yeah.
And then in Metal Gear Solid 2, you discover that the I think the left arm or right arm, one of the arms of Liquid Ocelot, who returns in Metal Gear Solid 2, is I say Revolver Ocelot, not Liquid Ocelot, but he's called Liquid Ocelot. But Revolver Ocelot takes one of the arms of Liquid Snake and puts it on his own arm, and they say that that arm means that Liquid is still alive and communicating through Revolver Ocelot, which is why he's Liquid Ocelot. This is, great storytelling here. So Liquid Snake is still alive through Revolver Ocelot. Everything's making sense here.
That is some
So they could-
serious fucking like mental gymnastics just to get a character back. But all right, yeah, go on.
Sure. So in Metal Gear Solid 4, this whole entire plot continues until you get to the end, and then Revolver Ocelot says, actually, I was just pretending that this arm grafted onto my arm was actually making me be Liquid, and I was pretending to do it to keep the spirit of Liquid alive or some shit. So the entire time I was just acting and pretending that Liquid was controlling me, and I wasn't actually Liquid because this arm didn't make me do anything. It was just me being me, and just pretend and just like really hamming it up for effect to make you believe that Liquid was still here. And that is dumb. It is horrifically dumb. It's dumber than the dumb thing that already happened, which, in the Metal Gear universe which is dumb, that is believable. So can you just make it believable? Can you just give me hope that, like, for some reason the nanomachines in Liquid's arm are somehow driving Revolver Ocelot's personality to actually be Liquid? Like, why do we have to retcon this? This was already over the top cheesy bullshit fun. I love that sort of shit. Don't tell me it's a lie, you fucking hack. Kojima, I know what you're doing with Jeff Keighley. Maybe I have photos. Do you want to find out? You better invite me to the Game Awards. But hey, this is all I'm saying. It's a dumb retcon. I love dumb stories, but this is a dumber retcon. Bad decision. Metal Gear Solid 4. Liquid Snake's arm doesn't actually make Revolver Ocelot turn into Liquid.
I mean, I feel like it would have been fair for you to just say more or less the entirety of Metal Gear Solid, just the whole series. But yeah,
I'm pretty sure there's
that's all right. My version of that's coming later. All right. So my number 3, the Koopalings from the Super Mario universe.
Oh yeah.
This pisses me off probably more than it should, but given that I grew up with the Super Nintendo and that, well, the NES and the Super Nintendo, I, as far as I'm concerned, the Koopalings have been and always will be Bowser's children, legitimate or otherwise. But in Super Mario Brothers 3, it was established, because this is when they were introduced, that they are all Bowser's children. They don't go so far as to say how Bowser suddenly had like how many like 8 or 10 of them, I
I
think.
think it's 8.
Yeah,
But
I
if
think
you
it's
include
8.
Bowser Jr., I think it's 9.
Well, Bowser Jr. came later, right?
That's
So
true. Yeah.
yeah, so 8. They don't explain how he suddenly had 8 kids, but whatever, it's fine. But no, so that gets changed later. So that is really never mentioned again, that they're his children, and instead they get called his minions in later games. But it was like in this really weird spot where the Bowser's children thing wasn't necessarily 100% disproved either. So most, I would say, fans who were familiar with this kind of just assume that they were still his kids. But then sometime in 2012, there was an interview with Miyamoto, and he said, and set the official record straight, that in the current story, the Koopalings are not Bowser's children, which I still 100% disagree with. And it still bothers me to this day.
I 100% agree with you, and I forgot that was a retcon that existed because that is horrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It showed Bowser was a good father and giving all of his children little kingdoms to run.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe they weren't the most successful, but neither is he. So he tried.
True.
And he did his best until some motherfucker from Brooklyn decided that he was going to ruin the party.
I mean, it also canonically established that Bowser does indeed fuck. So, I mean, there's that.
Yeah. Yeah, or at least he squirts on eggs or however reptiles do it. I don't know.
Yeah, however that happens.
Yeah, what is it? Like a cloaca? That's what they have? I don't know what it is.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't even know exactly how that works. But
I don't either.
He fertilized eggs.
I'm sure there is some Rule 34 artist out there that would be able to diagram it for you in excruciating detail.
Number 2.
Okay, my number 2 is actually a good one. It's the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which just turns everything about Final Fantasy VII on its head. Because in this game, you get to fight destiny and change the outcome of so many things. Where at the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake, and you're escaping, you start to realize that all these shadow figures you are fighting is fate itself and destiny, and that's when everyone realizes that like Sephiroth is controlling everything, and there's a set series of events that you're supposed to do, and Aerith realizes that she's going to get stabbed, and they don't go into detail about that really, but yeah, I mean, it's essentially setting up that they know the course of events of the original Final Fantasy VII, and they are going to go and change it. So the entirety of Final Fantasy VII Remake and the games moving forward are changing the destiny and plot line of how Final Fantasy VII was supposed to go. As someone who does not care much for the plot of Final Fantasy VII, this is something I love and adore. I welcome this retcon because I don't care about the stupid plot of Final Fantasy VII because it makes no sense. And you should not feel bad about it either, because the final plot of Final Fantasy VII sucks, and everyone in Final Fantasy VII is a horrible person in the original game, and the remake actually makes these people likable and makes me care about them. I really care about the characters in Final Fantasy VII, even though, Barrett's still a little bit of a crazy eco-terrorist. You know what? I can still somewhat relate to him. And now, because, well, I can't relate to him. He's crazy. But I understand his devotion for things and how he's trying to save the planet. I can respect it. And I am probably going to break down when it gets to the point where he needs to go to find Dyne and Marlene. Actually, that's 2 games that have Dyne in them. That's a little weird. But that's going to be really weird when they go to the Gold Saucer and, go to Corral. And I think that's going to be interesting, and how they change the destinies and everything like that. The door is wide open for the possibilities for the future of Final Fantasy VII. They can right all the wrongs, even though I don't know where they're going to go after they leave Midgard, because it kind of can go anywhere. But I am happy that it's getting shaken up, and Jesse better be alive. Shane?
All right. Well, I think given that this game is at my number 2, might give some folks who are familiar with my particular flavor profile in games an idea of how much my number one actually really bothers me, because you'd think this would be my number one, but some of the dumb shit that they pulled in Diablo, that is my number two. Specifically Diablo 3 and their attempt to retcon stuff that did not need it whatsoever. So specifically, and there are other things, but I'm specifically talking about what they did as far as the lore is concerned around the player character of the first game. So the character that you yourself are playing as. So originally in Diablo 1, there is NPC dialogue that heavily implies that you, the player character, used to live in the town of Tristram at some point, and you returned when you heard that like some weird shit was going down. Now, granted, I'm actually not containing this to Diablo 3, because as much as I love Diablo 2, they kind of went and fucked around with this as well. So again, Blizzard being Blizzard. But in Diablo 2, the hero of the first game is established as the one who became the Dark Wanderer. But now he's a nameless wanderer that nobody in Tristram ever knew. So they already changed that in Diablo 2, which seemed unnecessary, but there you go. And then Diablo 3 goes and takes this a stupid step further and establishes that the Dark Wanderer's name is in fact Aiden. And not only is he Aiden, but he is in fact Prince Aiden. And both Deckard Cain and the people of Tristram knew him pretty well, because he is King Leoric's eldest son. So he's the Prince of Condurus. He is the brother to Albrecht, who is the king's son that gets absconded by his advisor Lazarus, and becomes the vessel for Diablo and that whole business. Despite the fact that Diablo 1 very clearly stated that Albrecht was King Leoric's only son, therefore was also part of the reason that Leoric kind of went totally batty shit insane, trying to save his son and ultimately succumbing to becoming the Skeleton King. So they just totally shit on this whole thing by by establishing the player character as a very specific person who never existed. And it was 100% unnecessary, because part of what made it so alluring was the fact that it was, at least in the first game, you were, and I said this in our episode about this too, way back when, as well as some guest appearances that I may have made recently talking about the first Diablo game. And that is that, like, you're basically just an average person, more or less. You start the game as just an adventurer who heard of some weird stuff going on in this little town of Tristram. Specifically, you were saying that, like, you used to live there when you were younger. You went off to do some adventures. You heard, like, oh man, that's some weird stuff. So you come back. And some of the NPCs recognize you right off the bat if you actually read through all of their extra dialogue. And then you kind of go from there, and then you become more powerful during your, adventure. And then ultimately you sort of commit the ultimate sacrifice by trying to contain the essence of Diablo in the Soul Stone in your own body, because you figure, listen, there ain't nobody else around here that's as strong as I am at this point. I fought through 16 levels of demons and other BS. So if anybody's going to try to contain this thing, I guess it's going to be me. You ultimately fail, of course, which is what leads into the events of Diablo 2. But like making him a specific person kind of like removes the player, you, from that story. So you it's no longer you, which also kind of completely shits on the rest of Diablo 2, because they did a pretty good job of working all of the original characters from Diablo 1 into 2 as basically like corrupted versions of themselves. You get Bloodraven, who was the rogue from the first game. You have to kill her because she's fallen to the dark forces. The sorcerer from the first game is in Act 2, and you have to take him out. And then ultimately it's like canonically the warrior from Diablo 1 is the Dark Wanderer. But they just took it a step too far, and it was totally unnecessary. And basically everyone hated it. including me.
Yeah, fuck Blizzard. Am I right?
Pretty much, yeah. But boy, do I still need to play Season 2 of Diablo 4.
Number 1.
All right, here's my number 1. This one hurts, and I'm going back to Final Fantasy VII. And I guess technically this would be Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, because this involves the ending to Final Fantasy VII. Shane, you know the ending to Final Fantasy VII.
Mm-hmm.
You see Red 13 with his 2 unexplainable puppies running next to him.
Yes.
How he had puppies, we don't know. Maybe he buds and is an asexual reproducer. It's possible. We'll never know. Which kind of doesn't make sense of why he has a mother and a father. I'm not going to get into details here. But the thing is that one of the sticking plot points of the end of Final Fantasy VII is that the magic spell Holy that Aerith summons while she's being stabbed has to make the decision of whether or not saving humanity is worth it, because it's there to save the planet. And if it deems humanity as a threat, it will eliminate humanity and turn the planet back over to nature, which is somewhat insinuated at the end because nature has overtaken Midgar. So it does kind of suggest that Holy decided that humans needed to be destroyed, because there are no humans in the end of Final Fantasy VII when Red 13 is running around with his puppies. And yeah, that's that. But then we get Advent Children, which is the sequel to Final Fantasy VII in movie form. And it opens with the ending to Final Fantasy VII to kind of be like, yeah, we know. And then it goes, fuck you. Because it just says, yeah, everyone survived. And it's just a new story. And everyone's here. I guess you could infer that. I guess there's room to infer that. But it didn't really suggest that. It suggested that nature took back over and nature controlled the planet and that humans were gone. But not in Final Fantasy Advent Children, because we got to get more Final Fantasy content out there, y'all. You love Cloud and Tifa and her big mommy milkers. I mean, why not? Have more shit. Have more content. We'll even come out with the 2nd edition when it comes out on Blu-ray. Oh, is that a teaser for a Final Fantasy VII remake on the PlayStation 3 after the Advent Children? We're totally not doing that until we are. Oh, go buy the remake. Oh, a big event. Oh, we didn't know. Oh, let's make some more content and shit that happens afterwards and before. Let's just make a Final Fantasy VII universe. It's gonna be fan-fucking-tastic. That's all I get from retconning the end of Final Fantasy VII. Fuck you, Square. You have no fucking idea what you did. This is why Final Fantasy as a brand is suffering from tons of credibility, legitimacy. You think you're a big name. People pretend you're a big name, but at the end of the day, when you look at a game like Final Fantasy X that sold something like 15 million units, and here you are celebrating Final Fantasy 16 selling 3 million, you know that your brand means shit. Final Fantasy 15 did sell pretty well, by the way. I just think that was the last gasp, because it doesn't make sense, because this Final Fantasy 15 happened a long time after Final Fantasy 7, but it makes no sense. That was the poison in the well. It was the toxicity where you're like, actually, let's make a big brand off one of our best-selling games and just continue to milk the shit out of it. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Die. Go to hell. Horrible retcon. Let people think about what happened. Don't force that, don't give them meaningless sequels that mean nothing, that you just want to oh, here's a DVD, here's a UMD for your PSP. Thank you, Sony, for the funding to make this bullshit. Fuck you. Shane.
Oh, all right. There's some level of catharsis in these particular topics when we get them. All right, so you may be wondering, what could possibly top a Diablo retcon?
Yeah, I need to know.
That's pretty big, yeah.
Yeah.
Just Kingdom Hearts, just all of it. Everything,
Oh.
the whole fucking thing. Like, oh God. Okay. So I believe I have gone on record as a Kingdom Hearts stan, a fan of the series, one might say. And I think anybody else who likes Kingdom Hearts also sort of has this implicit understanding that it is very much a bit like a Stockholm syndrome situation, I think. And we want to, we want to like it, and we say we like it, but it hurts us. It really does. And I could talk forever about all of the things that this series has done to completely, fuck up its lore 6 ways from Sunday, but I'm going to stick with just a couple of the heavy hitters here, because they just make no fucking sense whatsoever. So the first Kingdom Hearts game, which, by the way, a very nice little package deal. The story of Kingdom Hearts, the first game, tied up very nicely. It all pretty much makes sense. It's actually not bad. It's a good little story. And then Kingdom Hearts 2 and literally everything else comes along and says, what if we did that but dumber? And so the first game defines the heartless as those without hearts. Seems pretty straightforward. When a person succumbs to darkness in their heart, the darkness consumes it entirely, leaving them with no heart, and thus they are a heartless. However, starting in Final Mix, the explanation is actually just totally fucking reversed, where it's like, no. The heartless is the heart, and the empty shell of the body becomes what we call a nobody. So now a person who has succumbed to darkness has 2 different versions of themselves running around. One, which is a heartless that has the heart, okay, and the nobody, who is the empty shell. And then they keep adding on to this in subsequent games that basically does nothing but just confuse the issue even further. So there's that. And then the other big, glaring, black-hooded elephant in the room is Ansem, or perhaps more accurately, Xehanort. There's a reason that the meme "everyone is Xehanort" gets bounced around a lot in the Kingdom Hearts community, and that's because at this point, that's basically true. So in the original game, Ansem, who is the leader of Hollow Bastion, was said to be this like once benevolent king who became obsessed with studying the darkness and eventually was consumed by it. That whole, you stare too long into the abyss, it stares back. Okay, fine. That tracks. I'm on board with that. In the second game, though, we find out that the person that everybody thought was Ansem, the once benevolent king, was actually the heartless of his apprentice, Xehanort, who had deposed Ansem and stolen his name, so he was parading around as Ansem, and that the real Ansem pretty much remained a good guy, like mostly. But then you get Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, which makes it even more ridiculous. So the first Xehanort that we ever saw, who is Ansem, went back in time, because when you introduce time travel into things, it always makes things better, and made his past self evil to start with. And the entire nature of Xehanort's past plans completely changed to be more interconnected with this whole like big plan of creating 13 versions of himself through like time travel, and also infusing his heart into other people's hearts, which is also a thing that can be done. And it's not just exclusive to Xehanort, because that also happens with like Kairi, and it's a whole fucking thing. Like there's a reason that there is like a 3 or 4 hour video out there on YouTube that is like required viewing in order to understand how the Kingdom Hearts lore is supposed to work. And even then, by the end of that, you're just like, I think I got like 75% of that, maybe. So yeah, there you go. That's why it's my number 1, because it is this like big, glorious, stupid clusterfuck of a story that like I really want to like And there's a lot of aspects of Kingdom Hearts that I do genuinely like. But then there's just the plot has gone so far off the rails that at this point, I don't think it will ever recover unless they just do like a hard reboot, like MK11 style, and just say, all right, fuck all that other stuff. We're rebaselining things. But I highly doubt that's going to happen. So
Yeah, it's part of the reason I don't want to get involved with Kingdom Hearts at all. I played 1 and 2, and I'm just leaving it there. I played it a long time ago. I had fun with it. No. By the way, shout out to our friend Eric Guess from the Unlockables podcast, because he has about something like 10, 12 hours of Kingdom Hearts content where he breaks down the plot. So there you go, Shane.
hey,
You should go
there you go.
give that a listen.
Yeah.
Maybe he can explain it better for all of you, because I sure as fuck can't. And Shane just wants to bang his head against the wall.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there was a time where I could fairly competently explain it to you, but that information has mostly exited my brain now, so I don't know if I could do that. It's probably for the best, honestly, but yeah. But hey, at any rate, there you have it. There it is. Our top 5. I guess I won't say worst. I'm gonna have to come up with a different title for this episode, because
Retcons.
I was definitely going under the guise of them just being really terrible retcons, but perhaps highly suspect, maybe. Well, I don't know. I'll workshop it. But at any rate, there you go. 5 retcons for better or worse. So hey, you know what? If you liked our lists, or even if you didn't, feel free to let us know. And probably the best way to do that is to just jump into our public Discord. It is in fact open and also free. So if you haven't done that, I mean, honestly, I just feel like you're doing yourself a disservice at this point. So just head on over to our link tree. It's linktr.ee/retro hangover, and you can find that Discord there, as well as all our other stuff. If you want to check out our merch store or the Patreon, if you want to support the show in those ways, then you can certainly do that. You can also check out our socials, as well as our YouTube channel, and our Twitch .television streams, which Chris is going to tell you more about until the end of time, because at one point I sort of set that as our own RHP canon, and I don't know how that happened, but here we are. So he is obligated now to tell you about this. So so Chris, what's the Twitch sitch? Oh man, why haven't I never thought of that before? All right, Twitch sitch. There you go.
Twitch sitch. The Twitch sitch is if you head over to if you head over to twitch.tv/retro hangover and give us a follow, you can find out when we are streaming, because as the time of this recording, I just happen to stream whenever the fuck I want to. But if you really want to know when we actually are supposed to be streaming, that is at Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. That's US, by the way, over at twitch.tv/retro hangover. Once again, that's twitch.tv/retro hangover at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're interested in following us there, or watching us there, or just hanging out with the community, that is a great community top to bottom, head on over there, and we will be streaming at twitch.tv/retro hangover at 9 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays. See you there.
All right. Well, I suppose with all of that being said, until next time,
Play with your, wow, Square Enix really knows how to fuck things up joysticks.